I'm very weary of the idea of adults taking moral instruction from children, and this seems to be something the BBC is promoting a lot these days for some reason. Would you take moral instruction from a child, Callum?
I don't listen to Greta Thunberg, no.
Exactly. Why would you?
Yeah.
Why would you? Why would I need to listen to a 16-year-old fetal alcohol syndrome child on any subject?
Except what it's like to be a fetal alcohol syndrome child, maybe.
No, I'd listen to someone who'd studied it. Right?
Good point.
Like, this is the thing. Like, I don't expect her to even be able to articulate properly what that means for a person, right? Because she's a child, right? So
I think she's technically an adult now.
Okay, now she might be, but still, I don't think I'm going to listen to her when it comes to climate change.
No.
Don't think she knows anything about it.
No.
And when you say adult, like she's what, 18 now? Yeah, I don't think 18-year-olds know anything either. And I know this because I used to be 18, and I look back at myself now and think, wow, I was an idiot. A total idiot. And you don't know anything. Pretty much before 40, I'd say. Anyone younger than 40.
Before the age I am, you're a moron.
Yeah, exactly.
Right, okay.
Basically, yeah. And when I get to 50, I'll be like, well, anyone under that was totally wrong about everything. But anyway, so yeah, let's look at the first one. Teenagers mentoring cops. Teenagers mentoring senior police officers.
About
Why?
what?
Yeah, exactly, right. So the BBC...
Have you heard of TikTok? Like,
yeah, exactly. Exactly. Why do you need this person's input? And the answer is they're brown. She's brown, Callum.
oh, that's it then.
She's brown. She knows all about being brown.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So, and I love how gender specific this all is as well. Why teenagers are mentoring senior Met police officers. 3 teenagers have mentored a trio of the Metropolitan Police's top women officers for 6 months. The reverse mentoring project, reverse mentoring, as if the teenagers know anything about the world and life that they can teach these 50-year-old women, right? It's aimed to help officers get closer to the communities they serve by gaining fresh perspectives, including issues on domestic abuse, knife crime, and social inequality.
Okay, ignoring the cringe of social inequality as if that's a problem. No, that's the obvious conclusion of free enterprise and free choice.
Yep.
But whatever. Apparently that's bad according to the British state. The idea that the child is going to know more about domestic abuse and knife crime than the senior police officer who's dealt with those issues for 20, 30 years.
Yeah. It's mad, isn't it?
I mean, how many times has she been stabbed?
Well, good question. And anyway, so the force teamed up with the charity The Girls Network to launch the pilot program, which provided young women with a chance to play a part in influencing the actions and attitudes of Met Police. So the people who are succeeding most in society are young women. They are wildly out-earning young men. They are the majority of university students. And for some reason, they need affirmative action to further enhance their privileges, Callum.
But also going back to the police point, who's mostly involved in knife crime? Is it young women?
No.
People committing domestic abuse, is it young women?
No.
Even the victims of domestic abuse, is it young women? I don't even know.
Actually, no, but we'll
Probably
get to
going to be
that.
like...
No. We have the answer to that. So the answer is no.
Enlighten me.
So this, if we want to talk about implicit bias, this is a really good example. But let's play the first clip.
I was nervous that my mentor, Farheen, and I might not have much in common. We're very different ages, we've got very different backgrounds.
It was a really scary feeling. Helen was a senior officer and she had a lot more knowledge than I.
Yeah, me too. But look at that. She had a lot more knowledge than I. It was scary. Yeah, because you don't know anything. At least this young lady has the humility to say, wait a minute, I don't know anything. This is a 50-year-old officer or something,
Why am I here?
Yeah, exactly. But she just, this is the first minute of the thing or whatever, and she just flat out admits, well, I don't know anything. I'm 18. Why am I being chosen for this? So anyway, yeah, let's go on to the second clip.
And one of the reasons why I want us to expand it is that I know that the influence of those young people's voices on senior police officers can make a real difference into how we go about policing in London.
Why? What are you going to do differently? What are young people going to say?
Don't do policing.
Yeah.
And the police officer's going to be like, yeah, we're not doing that.
Yeah, exactly. Don't stop and search us because we've got gang war to win. It's like, sorry, no. I mean, don't get me wrong. I admire the will to succeed, but like, no, and like, what do young people know about solutions to knife crime? They're the problem. They can't possibly. Then what are they going to do? Be like, yeah, so this is what we do to keep our knives, hidden from the cops when we're getting stopped and searched. They're not going to do that. Like, it's ridiculous.
Also, this lady here, I don't know, but her accent is, of course, London, but kind of upper class in my ears.
Islington.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think she's very involved in the knife scene.
Nah. But anyway, yeah, let's play clip 3.
Within my community, I've seen that domestic violence and abuse is seen as a taboo and people don't necessarily want to talk about it.
We also realised that we both were really interested and worried by the increase of domestic abuse during the pandemic, and particularly the increase that we saw where young men were victims of domestic abuse.
It led to us working towards a podcast. Being a victim of domestic violence and abuse isn't something we should be ashamed about. To come out of that shell and to speak up about it is really empowering.
I'm getting strong Saudi Arabians women's rights network vibes at the UN right now. Well,
What?
if young men are being increasingly the target of domestic abuse, why aren't we hearing from a young man about that?
Or just a victim.
Or even a victim, yeah. But we've got we're hearing from women on the subject of male abuse.
And the solution was to start a podcast.
Yes, exactly. And this is just giving me Saudi UN women's panels. And
It doesn't do anything.
where it's just where it's all men talking about women's domestic abuse, and all the feminists are like, well, they can't possibly know. It's like, okay, but by the same token, you can't possibly know.
True, but also just the idea that they're going to make a podcast, and they said their goal of that podcast is to make people feel that they don't need to be ashamed to be a victim.
Yes,
I'm not sure who really thinks that anyway.
women think that way, right? I mean, look at the way she said it's empowering to do this. It's like, is it though? Is it empowering for young men to portray themselves as victims? I wouldn't say so.
Surely they're arguing that men feel that it's, I'm a victim of domestic abuse, that's embarrassing, and I'm beaten up by my wife, therefore that's what they're trying to go after. But
Maybe.
I'm not sure many victims are going to watch that podcast and get that.
No, but even then, this is a very female-centered perspective. It's not empowering for a man to portray himself as a victim, unfortunately. And I'm not saying if you are a man who's suffering from domestic abuse, of course, go and get help.
I mean, what would be a more powerful message? Probably that it's just that she gets the punishment she deserves.
Yes, and it's your right to have justice. We're in the era of equality now. I wouldn't describe it as empowering because I don't think it is, and I think there's a fundamental untruth there that kind of undermines the messaging, and it's just poorly framed. It might be empowering for a woman to do that, but it's not empowering, in my opinion, for a man to do that. But anyway, again, why do we get input from a child on this? Why don't we get input from an adult who's suffered from domestic abuse? One of these men in these communities who suffer from domestic abuse. Wouldn't that be pertinent? Like, no, here's a child's opinion on it. I don't care about her opinion. Why would anyone care about her opinion? But anyway, here's another example where a young girl, changed her dad's mind. Now, this is actually more relevant, I would say. This is more correct because her dad is working class English and is racist or was racist. He'd say like the N word and the P word and things like this, and he'd engage in racist football chants and things like that. And so his daughter basically sat there and said, "Well, this isn't on, is it?" And he changed his mind. So that's good.
Sorry.
Let's play the next clip.
One of the things he used to say was things like, "You can't have a black boyfriend. Don't bring a black boy home." Or we'd walk past people who were selling the big issue, and it would be, well, we only buy them from English people because they can go home and be homeless there. It wasn't a necessarily like outward thing. He wouldn't go, oh my God, I hate these kind of people. But it was kind of in the little things.
So general sort of working class in-group preference is what he's describing.
I also just like if a parent says to you, don't bring home someone of a different race, you just do it and then see what happens. Because usually it's all bluff.
Yeah,
It evaporates as soon as they meet the person.
Especially as the person you bring home is bound to be nice, which is why you bring them home.
Yeah, presumably.
So, But the point is, it's just what's being described there is just working class English in-group preference, right? So it's like, we don't buy big issues from foreigners, we buy them from English people and things like that. Don't bring a black person, don't bring an English person,
Well, you could be black English.
Well, yeah, but you know what?
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. But yeah, so it like don't get me wrong, not he's not like neo-Nazi. I hate foreign, the non-whites and we should kill them or anything like that. It's just a kind of the way things are, isn't it? But let's play the next clip.
I think it was partly my upbringing, learnt behaviour. I was from a small town with, I think, one black family in the whole village, and then I moved when I was 16, 17 to a town with a large minority population, and that was a shock to the system. I wasn't used to it, and I didn't know how to deal with it.
So things are interesting and different, and he's got a particular kind of what I guess we'd call Aboriginal upbringing in a small English town.
Is he saying he became more racist from moving into a diverse area?
Seems that way, yeah.
Because that's interesting. That's actually the results of most of the polling you get. So for the most
Diversity is increasing racism.
Oh yeah. So I mean, this is the question. So a lot of leftists like to bring up data that shows that the AFD don't win in diverse areas or something like this, or something like that, right? And what's interesting is if you look for parties, because this is the best way to do it, who are interested in migration or discussions of that nature, they poll best among the native population in diverse areas, not in the countryside.
Didn't UKIP do really well in one certain borough of London?
Yeah, but you have those on the constituency level. But I'm just talking about individual voters. Like the one who is most fanatic is usually would in this case be an English person in a very diverse borough of London. They're not going to win that seat because there's just statistics. But that's it's one of the factors that plays out.
Yeah, and one thing that I think this is based on, and again, I bring up the example of UKIP, not because UKIP's a racist party, obviously.
No, it's just a measure of immigration.
But it's also a measure of like contact with foreign cultures. Because I mean, I spent 8 years living in Germany, right? And when you spend a lot of time in contact with foreigners, you become very aware of how you're not like them. Your cultural mannerisms, the values you have, the things that you do, the habits, you just become aware of them because there's a contrast that's presented in front of your face. And so I don't think that this like in-group preference is a form of racism. I don't think that's what it is. I think it's a form of particularism, right? It's preference.
Preferencing a culture is not preferencing a race.
No. And it's also not prejudice against the other either. Right?
It's just, this is mine, this is yours.
Exactly. So, I mean, imagine if we were sat and eating dinner, like I might be familiar with a certain kind of cooking and you give me a different kind of cooking. I might not really like it because it's just not what I'm used to, but it's not that I hate whatever you've made. I don't have an irrational prejudice against it. I'm just used to something else and I just prefer that because it's just habit, right? So it's not sort of ideological, like, irrational hatreds or anything. It's just a natural inborn preference, and it's normal. Almost everyone has them, apart from white leftists, actually, who have an out-group preference. By all polling that's been done on it, but most other people around the world have a kind of natural in-group preference that's built out of habit and a love of those things that are the home.
I mean, this is an experience from just lived experience time of UKIP and meeting people in the FD is that they have a lot of interaction with foreign cultures, which is what makes them love the native. So they're like, we should preserve what we have because they have, and that's wonderful. But
yeah, absolutely. Well, this is the thing. Like Richard Brain had a debate with Femi outside of Parliament, and afterwards, Steve Bray, the Stop Brexit man, I will never forget this. I just found it fascinating. He just turns around and goes, the funny thing about all these UKIPers, they've all got foreign wives. So yeah, because they don't hate foreigners. They like their own culture. And often you go to a different country to get a foreign wife. You meet a woman, you fall in love with her, she comes back with you. And you become aware of the differences in our culture to theirs. And it's not, again, a hatred or anything like that. It's just about a preference. But it shows that the people in UKIP had gone out into the world and experienced the world, whereas the sort of, parochial labourite who's never left the country.
Yeah, let's just import the world, and they know nothing of the world.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Anyway, let's go to the next clip.
I think I've learned from Millie that what I was unacceptable. Now I look back and I try to teach other people the way that Millie's taught me. I've got a lot of respect for Millie because she stood up to me and showed me what I was.
See, look how nervous he sounds. You can see him shaking in parts of this, and it's probably nerves of being, just a humble man.
What did she do?
Well, she basically said, you're not allowed to be racist, Dad.
Yeah, but did she make any arguments? Just being like,
yeah, she did. But honestly, it just wasn't very interesting. Oh. But she did. But the point is, it's not acceptable to be what he was. And what he's describing is to be a working class Englishman, and she's said that's not an acceptable thing.
Well, not the black stuff. Like
I agree. Yeah,
if he's prejudiced against black people, she made the argument. No, they're just people. There's no racial differences.
But the point is, it's attacking the natural proclivity for the working class English to have an in-group preference, and they're not being that. No one else's preference is being attacked in that way. No one's attacking the Muslim in-group preference, the Hindu in-group preference, or the Sikh in-group.
Well, when he spoke about, if there's English homeless, I want to help them first.
Yeah.
that's a different thing from, no blacks.
Yeah, sure. And I'm not saying he didn't have racist opinions, and it is good that she changed those. But that's a manifestation of an underlying trait that all of these other groups have, and no one will ever address in any of these other groups. But he's been shown in his own words that what he was unacceptable. And it's not just about him, saying racist things. It's also about the general way that he viewed his own culture that's changing here. Is there one more clip, or was that the last one? Right, okay. And and the last thing I want to say about this is the problem I have with this as well is that these young people are not the authors of these thoughts. She didn't invent this for herself. She was indoctrinated into this in school. Now, I agree we should not be racist, obviously, but there is a consequence to the way that this has been attacked in that he now sees his own indigenous culture as being inherently wrong. And I don't think that's a healthy thing to do to anyone.
I didn't see the full clip, so I don't know how much.
Well, just the way that he described it there.
Right.
What I was wrong. So what you were was a working class Englishman.
Well, what was he describing?
Just the native culture of the working class. That's the thing.
I've only seen 2 bits. Him saying that, her saying that he said, don't bring a black boy home, and also that we help homeless English first.
Yeah. I mean, he did use racist language and stuff, but it's changed his entire worldview, basically, into the sort of, middle class lefty worldview. It's like,
I don't know. It might be that you're reading too much into that, in my view.
I don't think I am, but maybe I am, but I don't think I am. But again, fundamentally, though, she's not the author of these thoughts, so someone else has raised her in a way that has gone against her own father's culture. Now, like I said, I'm not saying that there's no room for change or anything like that, but I think it is important to be aware of that fact. She's not the person who invented this ideology, so we can't just present it as if, this is just something that fell out of the sky or that has just naturally come about. This isn't all natural. That's the point.
If you enjoyed that segment from the podcast, The Lotus Eaters, you can go to prelotuseaters.com and get access to all our premium content.
Things like our book club, where we examine classics like Aldous Huxley's Brave New World and examine the themes that underpin it, and now we're getting worryingly close to that, or modern books like Mark Sidwell's The Long March, which is how exactly we ended up in the current cultural situation we're in and what conservatives can do about it. Or you can check out the other series we have, such as our Contemplation series, where Hugo and Josh decided to, in the latest one, have a look at an examination on the ways that other elections have been rigged for no reason at all. Or you can check out our Epoch series, which is one of my personal favorites because this is where I get to talk about history. And I love talking about just random things from history. And one of the great things we can do with this series is talk about those things that aren't so often discussed. So, I mean, you can talk about Xerxes' army, the vast army that invaded Greece during the Greco-Persian Wars. Or we can go through things like Herodotus' view on the Scythians. Who are they? You probably don't know, but they used to be quite an important people a long time ago, and they're very, very interesting. We've got some really good reports about them. Or we've got premium podcasts, which is things we generally don't want to put outside of the paywall because we might get in trouble for them, such as the list of things that Alex Jones was right about. Or we do just very interesting discussions because there are things that we do lots of work on. Another one is that I'm particularly proud of is where Christopher Hitchens, the famous new atheist, would have fallen during the modern culture wars, because he probably wouldn't have been very woke. But we also have lots of interviews and articles and other things on the website that you can sign up to enjoy, and we're really proud of them.
So if any of that sounds good to you, go over to lotuseaters.com and sign up for as little as £5 a month to support us, keep the show going, and also to get access to all the content. Thank you and goodbye.